What's up, guys? I am Jake here once again with a brand new video, and here today I'm going to be talking about 15 albums that I am going to be listening to on my trip to Spartanburg, South Carolina on tomorrow. I wanted to do this video before then. I'm obviously not really in the mood to do a video because I'm half asleep and I barely know what I'm even fucking saying. But I wanted to do it because I literally cannot do it any other day. Won't be here tomorrow and it won't be relevant after tomorrow. So today was the best way to do it. Today's the best day to do it, my fucking bad. Anyway, there are a lot of releases on this list that I have not heard yet, so I can't exactly go too far into detail with them. I can only say what I know about them, alright? So there are some releases that I am fully familiar with, and then there are some releases that are brand new to me and that I have not really listened to at all. I have a limited amount of storage on my phone, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump straight into the first thing on the list. Now, the first thing is a EP that I'm a really big fan of. I have been a fan of this artist ever since I was in the 6th grade. I discovered his music after playing Tony Hawk's Underground 2, and after listening to it, I became really attached to his music and wanted to dive deeper into the discography. Now, this particular release was recently reissued on vinyl, and I do own a copy of it. The release is Appleseed by Aesop Rock. This is still in the plastic, obviously, as you can tell by the hype sticker and everything. This is a really good release and something I'm wanting to listen to on the way to Spartanburg tomorrow. So, Appleseed by Aesop Rock. I'm a huge Aesop Rock fan, so since I recently got a hold of the LP pressing of it, I wanted to, listen to it on the trip. Anyway, that is the first one, Appleseed by Aesop Rock. Now, the next one is an album that I was a big fan of back when it first released, and honestly, the weird thing about this artist is that I used to really hate this person's music. I heard the first album way back when it first released, and I was like, nah, this, it's not really that good, but then I started to listen to it more, and I realized that I was being a little judgmental on the album, so I gave the second one a chance, and well, I've been a fan ever since. Anyway, the album is Happier Than Ever by Billie Eilish, which everyone here should be familiar with by now. This is a LP that I got for Christmas. It is still in the plastic because I do not have a sleeve for it yet. And this is the Target exclusive, as you can see up there. It includes a poster, and it's a light blue vinyl, so pretty fucking nice. But this is an album that I'm going to be listening to on the trip. I have heard the first half of the album. I have not heard the second half yet, so a lot of this album is still brand new to me, and I think it would be a perfect idea to listen to it on this trip. I've heard one half of the album, but I have yet to listen to the rest of it. So, yes, that is the second album on the list, and now the third album. This album is one that I have been a fan of ever since the 7th grade. When I heard this back in the day, it was, very shocking, in all honesty, because back in the day, this was the first time I was introduced to something like this. I listened to it, and I was like, holy fuck, this is some really depressing music. The album is The Architect by Cage, which is this is his last major label album. After this one, he started releasing on, not on a label. So this was the last major release that Cage ever made. This is a really good album. It's very bleak. It's very depressing. And at the same time, it really makes you want to keep listening to it no matter what you're going through. It's an amazing album, and also one that I got as a surprise for Christmas. Really good album. I'm definitely going to be listening to this one on my trip. So that is The Architect by Cage. I cannot say that first word because of YouTube guidelines, but you know what it is. Anyway, that is The Architect by Cage. Now, the next album is an album that my family listens to a lot, but I have yet to fully listen to. So there is a rapper that my family listens to called DaBaby. I am going to be listening to his first studio album, which is Baby on Baby. Now, this album, I've wanted to try it for a while. I remember seeing some Instagram posts about it way back in the day, but I never really bothered looking into it. And I did see an LP pressing of the newest album at 2nd and Charles about a year ago. So, with this being said, I've wanted to try it for a while. I figured I would add it to my list of albums to listen to on this road trip. I obviously do not have a physical copy of it. There are no physical copies of this album. So, with that being said, I downloaded the album and I will be listening to it on the trip. Okay, now the next album is an album that I have wanted to try since the 10th grade. Now, when I was in 10th grade, I was obsessed with ... Curve, which is a crunkcore group. Now, I loved all their music, I loved all their releases. There was really not one boring release anywhere within their discography. So, with this being said, I tried to find every single release imaginable, but there was one release that I could not listen to back then, and that release was exclusively on Google Play Music and iTunes. It was only on streaming services. It was not on YouTube. It was not for download anywhere. This was something that you legitimately had to pay for. Like, you couldn't just download this album. So, anyway, I feel like I'm going too far into detail already. The album is Till the Wheels Fall Off, Volume 2 by ... Curve. Now, the thing that made me want to listen to this one so badly is because, obviously, I'm a huge fan of the first one, the first Till the Wheels Fall Off album. This album was part of the reason why my 10th grade year was as awesome as it was. Now, Volume 2 included a bunch of new tracks and re-recordings of some off of this album. So, it only seemed natural to want to download the entire album and listen to it on the trip. Sadly, Volume 2 is not on physical media either. It is exclusively on streaming services. So, yeah. It is a 24-track album, and I spent a good while downloading this one, so I'm looking forward to listening to it. I have already heard the remake of Boys Pop the Bottles and a couple of others, but I have not heard any of the new ones yet, and I'm going to listen to them for the first time on this trip. So, Till the Wheels Fall Off Volume 2 by ... Curve, it is an album on the list. Now, the next album, and this is one that I recently got attached to. I used to... Oh my god. If you follow me on Facebook, you probably saw me ranting about this artist not very long ago. I did not give the artist a real chance. I did not really try it to its full potential. I listened to it and I was like, nah, fuck this. And then I pretty much left it behind because I know a lot of other artists who have the exact same style but do it 10 times better. And either way though, I started listening to it more and I was like, you know, this really wasn't that bad of an album. I can't believe I overlooked it like that. Anyway, the album is For the Aspiring Occultist by Ghostemane, which the artwork by itself attracted me to it. When I saw this amazing artwork and I saw the parental advisory logo at the bottom, I was like, yes, I have to try this. It looks so fucking cool. It is so hyped up and everyone talks about it, so why not listen to it? I tried it the first time, didn't like it, then I came right back around to it, then I was like, damn, this is really fucking good. With this being said, I downloaded the entire album again, and I will be listening to it on the trip. Now, the thing with this album, though, is that it does have a physical copy. It's on CD and vinyl, but the CD is insanely hard to find because it was exclusively sold by Amazon, and obviously those Amazon exclusives don't last very long. They usually have like 50 pressed, and the vinyl cost over $300, which I'm obviously not going to pay for. So For the Aspiring Occultist by Ghostemane, it's an album that I'm going to be listening to on the way to Spartanburg. So, yes, that is a great album, and I overlooked it the first time. Now, the next album, and I do own a physical copy of it, I was fucking obsessed with this album when I was in the 7th grade. When I was in 7th grade, I listened to this album so much, to the point that it was ridiculous. Like, I was starting to copy the dude's look. I was starting to listen to it every day in class. I was, like, legitimately obsessed with this artist and this album. I discovered it while I was on my grandma's computer way back in the day and looking around on YouTube. The artist is Greaves, and the album is Together/Apart from 2011. This recently arrived. I just got this, I think yesterday actually. Might have been the day before, I don't remember. But this is a masterpiece of an album. It's very unique, it's very diversive. This is something that you don't come across very often. It's a really interesting album and something that I am really glad to have a copy of now. The instrumentation is so fucking cool. His vocals are impressive. Everything about the album is just fucking amazing. And after hearing this album way back in the day, I immediately became a fan of it. I will do an unboxing video of this, by the way. I will be showcasing what everything looks like, because I've heard that it's, you know what, I'm not going to get into detail with it. I'd rather you all just be surprised with it. But yeah, that is Together/Apart by Greaves. It is a really good album, one of my personal favorites. The next album, and this is one of my favorite crunkcore albums. Obviously, I'm going to Spartanburg, which everyone's probably got down by now. Now, there is an artist that I know who is from Spartanburg named Headless. The very second I learned that we were going to Spartanburg, I immediately thought of Headless because he references it sometimes in his music. I figured it was only normal to listen to one of his albums on the way there. The album is the Is Crunk album from 2011, featuring, I think, 21 tracks. It is one of his lengthiest albums and by far one of the greatest records he has ever made. It has a lot of really good features from scene artists who are really big back in the day. It has really cool, exciting instrumentation, some of his best lyrical work to date. Like, the whole album is perfect. I wish I had a copy of it. I have tried to find one for a long time, but I still am incapable of getting one because of how rare it is. I've tried contacting Headless for physical copies, and even he doesn't have one, so with that being said, this album is something I had to download as well. It's an amazing album and one of my favorite crunkcore albums of all time. So, I will be listening to that on the way there. You know, we're going to Spartanburg, listening to a rapper from Spartanburg. It only makes total fucking sense. Anyway, Is Crunk by Headless, awesome album. The next one, and this is one that I've been getting into a lot more as of recent. Everyone knows that I'm a fan of horrorcore. I'm a really big fan of it. One horrorcore album that I've been a huge fan of ever since early 2020. I have been listening to it much, much more as of late, and I'm getting even more attached to it than I was back in the day. The album is Decomposition by Hex Rated. This is an album that I have hunted for a very long time. The CD is, for some reason, really hard to get a hold of, especially the original pressing. The original pressing was, I believe, released exclusively by Hex Rated. I don't think it was ever on a label, but this is unavailable literally everywhere. It's not on eBay, not on Amazon. The only place you can get this is Gorehop, which is a really good label/distro. I don't care where I go, this is like one of the albums that I always have in my rotation. It is really fucking awesome, and on top of it, it has 16 tracks, over an hour of material, and it's all nothing but perfect music. He is very diversive with his execution on the album. His vocal style changes up, the instrumentation goes between different genres. The entire album is like, it's one of a kind. It's one of those albums that just can never be replicated. But this album is amazing, and I will be listening to it on the way to Spartanburg. So yeah, Decomposition by Hex Rated. Fucking amazing album, something I'm glad to finally have. The next album, and this is one that I paid for on Amazon Music, the album is Greatest Hits by Biga. Now, this is an album that I've been listening to a whole lot more as of late. This one doesn't really need that much of an introduction, because if you're a fan of Biga, then you should already know what this one is. Now, this compilation is insanely underrated. A lot of people are not exactly familiar with it for some fucking reason. It includes 7 brand new tracks. It includes some tracks off the 2006 album, and it includes some tracks off both of the 2005 albums, which were the second and third albums. It is 25 tracks. It is 1 hour and 20 minutes. It is the perfect greatest hits compilation I've ever listened to. It's the best one I've ever heard. Like, I usually don't listen to greatest hits compilations because there isn't much of a point to it, but in this case, it is definitely necessary. The new tracks are incredible. All the new tracks are awesome. The only one I don't care for is Let's Have Some Fun. It's a 1-minute track, and it's just really annoying. I just don't like that one, but everything else is fucking awesome. The 2006 album is another one of the more underrated Biga records. And in 2005, both of those albums are partially lost media. They would be entirely lost media if not for this compilation. So, yes, Greatest Hits by Biga. It is essential for literally any road trip. So, yeah, Greatest Hits by Biga. I'm going to be listening to it on the way there. This is something that I listen to almost every day, actually. Like, whenever I go exercising, whenever I'm playing a video game, this compilation is almost always playing. So, just a cool little piece of information. Now, the next one is another physical copy that I have. I've been a fan of this album ever since the 7th grade, and it's another one of the more overlooked albums. It was considered a compilation because it consists of leftover tracks from the previous album, but it's 12 tracks. It's about 40 minutes. It's an album. I don't care if it's considered a compilation. To me, it's an album. It got a vinyl pressing for the very first time in 2020. Since it's considered a compilation, they didn't bother pressing a vinyl copy of it until recently, when people started requesting it. And I think it's really awesome because I've always wanted an LP pressing of the album. The album is B is for B-Sides by Less Than Jake, which is an amazing album and one of my favorite punk bands. Now, if you know me, you know I'm a huge fan of this group. They don't really need that much of an introduction. They have been around for a very long time, and this is one of the releases that I think was very overlooked way back when it was put out. When I was in 7th grade and I heard this for the first time, it was just so fucking different. Like, yeah, I love Anthem. I think that it's an amazing album. But I don't know why any of these tracks were cut off of that album. Because these tracks would have fit perfectly onto that album. But in a way, I'm glad they didn't make it, because then we wouldn't have got this one. I also think it's cool that they kept the parental advisory logo on the vinyl pressing, because usually with reissues, they tend to take those off for some fucking reason. B is for B-Sides by Less Than Jake. It's very underrated, and I listen to it everywhere I go, so yeah, B is for B-Sides by Less Than Jake. Now, the next releases are all by horrorcore artists. The next one is Razzikel with her debut album, Murder Potion. This album was introduced to me by a friend when I was in the 9th grade. I was friends with this girl who was really obsessed with her, and I was like, alright, if you're obsessed with her, maybe I should try it. And I was not disappointed. Her music has always been really special to me in some kind of way, but the Murder Potion album just feels like the fucking gem of the discography. Some people would say that it's the 2012 album, which I forget the name of sometimes, but for me, it's always been the first album. The first album just has a charm to it that no other album of hers has had so far. But Murder Potion is an amazing album, and something I would strongly suggest listening to if you have not heard it yet. So yeah, Murder Potion by Razzikel, it is an amazing album. Now, the next three I have not heard very much, so I cannot talk very much about these, but I can talk a little bit about them. So, one of the last ones on the list is I'm Just Me by Static G. Now, some of you probably have no clue who that is. Static G is a more underground horrorcore artist that I just recently discovered. Now, I saw the artwork for this EP and I was like, yes, I have to listen to that. And after hearing just the first track, I was already fucking blown away with it. So, as I previously mentioned, I'm a huge fan of Greaves. He's one of my favorite artists. This guy's music is very similar to his music. Instrumentally and vocally, there are a lot of similarities. The only difference is that Static G has more violent lyrics than the other one does. But this EP was really impressive. It was really fun to listen to. And I would definitely listen to it over and over again if I had an option. When I was playing my skateboarding game a few days ago, this EP was playing back and forth the whole fucking time. It is something that I want to listen to more. It's something that I want to get more attached to. And I think that listening to it on this trip is definitely going to help me become a bigger fan of this artist. He does have another album that I want to try, but it's like 24 tracks and I don't feel like downloading it, so with that being said, I am just going to stick to this EP and listen to this one over and over. It has 7 tracks, though. It is still kind of lengthy, so it's not like I'm missing anything. But anyway, I'm Just Me by Static G. I'm going to be listening to that on the trip. Coming in at number 14, we have an album that I just recently started to uncover. Now, this album I have not fully listened to yet, alright? So, I really cannot say anything about it. But it is a really obscure album, and I am definitely glad to have found all the files for it. So, there is a YouTuber that I used to know called Eat Your Face, which posted a lot of really underground horrorcore music. One big example is Reverend Fangory with his AASK album, which is fucking amazing. And after hearing that album on his channel, I was like, alright, maybe I can look around and find something else, because this guy obviously has a lot of underground music on his page. And I came across an album called America's Most Hated by The Ghost. Now, I looked at the album and I was like, okay, this is probably going to be really good. So, I saved the playlist on my YouTube channel. I checked back a few days later, the whole album was missing. And I found out that the guy deleted his YouTube channel, so I kind of lost all the files. But I managed to find a Bandcamp profile with the entire album. So I downloaded the album and I'm going to be listening to it on the trip. It is 32 tracks, well over an hour. It's about 2 hours, actually. It's a fucking ginormous album. And it is a horrorcore record. So I have really good expectations for it. I think it's going to be a really good album. Now, the last album, and this is one that I really can't describe. I have not heard one track off of this one. With America's Most Hated, I've heard 2 tracks, but I haven't heard the whole thing yet, so still pretty far behind. But this album that I'm about to talk about, number 15, I have not heard it yet, so I literally cannot say a word about it. The album is X-Rated by X-Con. Now, this is a mixtape that was released in 2012. The artwork by itself made me want to listen to it. Now, I can't show the artwork here because there's a lot of nudity on it, but it is a cool cover, though. I saw the cover and I was like, yes, I have to listen to that. It has, I believe, 9 tracks on it, maybe 8. Yeah, it's 8 tracks. It has 8 tracks on it, and it is the only release by X-Con, so I figured, why not download it and listen to it on the trip? It could be something that I get really attached to. Although, if it's the only album by this artist, then I don't know what to expect. It could either be really good or really bad. There's no fucking telling, but either way, it's a new release that I'm excited to listen to. So, yeah, X-Rated by X-Con, number 15 on the list. That is pretty much it. Those are the albums I plan on listening to on the way to Spartanburg. So, yeah, a lot of great albums and a few albums I have yet to listen to. So, yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you all later. Have a great night. I hope you guys enjoyed the video.